So, welcome everyone. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure. Okay. So, this week's topic is real life and truth. Apparently very big topics. Truth, reality, and so forth. And admittedly, I'm not the most qualified when it comes to talking about ultimate truth and reality and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's a bit more of an exploration rather than stating facts. It's also for you guys, hopefully, an invitation to actually reflect a little bit of your own and see where it takes you. I think it's very, very important to always stay open, to be able to learn, to receive knowledge, not only via the intellect, but also via awareness. Now, we can contemplate truth, we can think about truth, we can think about reality the way it is, and come to all sorts of conclusions. You can think that reality means that we all live for a certain time and then we die. You can think of reality as statements such as I do exist. I'm here right now. Or you can go into way more complexity, thinking of reality as a very abstract concept of there being multiple layers in the universe, multiple dimensions of existence, various possibilities of existing on different planes and layers and so forth. And there's all kinds of variations of all opinions of how it is in reality. So I'm not qualified to talk about truth in such a way, based on book knowledge or what some teachers have said. I think it's rather important to reflect on truth directly, here and now. Not so much via thought, but rather in terms of what is. So, for example, if you are thinking, if the mind is thinking, if the mind is contemplating something, then you realize what is really going on. So, namely, the mind is thinking. To me, that would be seeing truth. You see that there is a thinking activity going on in the mind. And every activity of thought is necessarily conditioned. It's conditioned by the books you've read, the people you hang out with, the media you consume, etc., etc. I mentioned it last week, or last session actually, that your mind is very much like a recording device. Depending on where it hangs out most of the time, that's the kind of input it gets, that's the output then. The output in your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, your opinions, views and attitudes and so forth, they are conditioned by your environment, for example, and the people you spend time with, the teachings you watch on YouTube, the meditation you just had. It conditions your mind. It makes it more calm. Maybe right now your mind is a bit more calm than it was before. So all the thought activity, everything that you can think about truth, is just that. It's thinking. And thinking could be anything. You could think in any possible way. And some people, they get really, really caught up with what they think about truth. They consider what they think about truth to be actual truth, reality. And then they get into heated arguments with one another. How can you say that? The Buddha has never taught this. I've read it in the books. My political orientation is like this, and it is the absolute political orientation, and you better follow that one. The way I think is the right way. because I have learned that from authorities and so forth. And so we can argue about these things. In fact, there's a whole bunch of religious scholars that are arguing about religious subjects, topics in the books. Certain translations of the old texts, are they really accurate? How should it have been translated? Let me tell you how it should have been translated, because I know. I've studied the language, and there's various versions of how it could have been translated and so forth. And truthfully, it should actually be rendered like that. And then someone else objects, and so it keeps going on and on and on. Thought is like this. Even within our own heads, there's a whole lot of debate going on all the time whether you are right the way you are. And maybe you need to change something about yourself and kind of erase a few of your qualities and maybe add on a few new ones, better ones. Maybe you're not good enough the way you are. All that is thinking, isn't it? A thought activity. And we're very, very invested in thought. When I say being invested in thought, I mean it just like the same way when you watch a movie and you get lost in the movie. You forget that you're watching a movie. You forget it's actors. You forget it's a flat screen in front of you. You get so lost in the story in the movie that you are moved to tears. And so we have all these opinions about ourselves, about others, how the world is like. Some people, they do spiritual practice and then they become very, very exalted. Then they're above all the others. Happened to me a few times. You do a lot of meditation, your mind becomes very calm, very powerful. And with it, you start looking down upon all those poor others who are not having those powerful minds like myself. Is that the truth? Am I better? Do I know more? Do I need to compare myself to others? All that is thought activity. Here is me and that's what others do. And it's kind of that way the mind goes always. Comparing itself, comparing thought to thought, comparing opinion to opinion, comparing our perceptions of other people to perceptions of ourselves. So what is it then that is reliably real? What is something that is actually true? Because there are a few things that are true. Namely, 6. There's sound. That's one thing, that's true. It's undeniable. There's hearing. Yes. The second one, there is seeing, there's sight. The third one, there's smell. Fourth one, taste. The fifth one, sensation or touch, feeling. And the sixth one, mental activity, thoughts. That's all there is. And so when you notice that you are thinking, if you are honest and truthful, then it's just that. Oh, the mind is thinking. It's what minds do. It's very liberating. But if you believe in your thoughts, then whole worlds open up. Like you get lost in movies, you can get lost in your thoughts, right? For example, you hear a sound and then it mixes with thought. And then you turn it into a bad sound. I don't like that sound. You shouldn't have said that. That's not true. And so it becomes much more than it actually is. Turning into a root of stress and tension. Unnecessarily so. So these 6 things, they are a possible way of classifying what is true. There's just mental activity in the 5 senses. Another way is the famous 5 khandas, the 5 heaps or 5 aggregates as the Buddha has enumerated them. The first one is there is a body. Also that is undeniable. There is form, there is matter. That's the first aggregate, the first thing that exists, matter. This is matter. This is matter. A bunch of atoms. It exists. It's not an illusion, it's right there. The second thing that exists is perceptions. It's another thing that is true. You can have perceptions arise in the mind. For example, if I hold that up, what is it? Tell me, what is it? Any idea?
Stick.
A stick.
That's what I perceive.
See, yeah, that's a perception, right? Anything else that it could be? It's a piece of wood, maybe? Just a piece of wood. Yeah. How do you call it? A stick to hit the singing bowl?
For the Tibetan singing bowl?
Yeah, exactly. It's a stick to hit the singing bowl. So you can have all kinds of ideas, all kinds of perceptions about what this is. You might use it to create a medicine with this, right? Like a mortar. You can do. Have you seen the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy, where the Coke bottle falls out of the sky into the area of a wild tribe somewhere in the outback of Australia, I think. Because these guys have never seen a Coke bottle, and so they think it's a gift of the gods, and then they start doing all kinds of things with it. And this Coke bottle is the cause of a whole lot of conflict then in this tribe later on. They just don't know that it's a Coke bottle. They don't know the material glass even. They use it as a mortar. They use it to kind of make music, and some venerate it and respect it. There's a lack of perception. Or you can say that there is a different kind of perception than we have it. We would say it's a Coke bottle. So this is the perception. That is a function. When you see something, you know what it is. That's the function of perception. And that is something that exists. It's a truth. How you perceive things. The third one is feeling. And here, feeling doesn't mean the physical sensations of touch, but it means the quality of an experience. It could be either pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. So also that exists. If there was a dead rat somewhere in this room here and it would smell really bad, you would experience it as unpleasant. There's an unpleasantness to it, to that smell. So that exists too, it's a fact. The experience of pleasantness or unpleasantness or neutrality. The fourth point that exists, that is a fact, would be what the Buddha calls fabrication, which means something like making things up in the mind. For example, I am Tobi is a fabrication. It is a concept. We're not born with a name naturally. We are given a name later that some other people have made up. And then we identify with that fabricated name. Another fabrication would be, my meditation practice is better than yours. That's a fabrication. That's a simple concept, an idea. I'm more spiritual than you are. That's a fabrication. I'm less spiritual than you are. The three types of conceit, they are fabrication. I'm better than you, I'm better than someone else, I'm worse than someone else, or I'm equal to someone else. The three types of conceit. They're all fabrication. And the mind is a very tricky trickster. It has all these amazing ways of getting you hooked on its content. It has all kinds of things to say about the world. There's all kinds of things to say about yourself. All that is fabrication. It's not something that you are originally born with. It's something you learn later. To be a Buddhist, you learn that later. You're not born a Buddhist. A baby's mind doesn't have such concepts. Oh, I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Christian, I'm a Democrat. I am worse than others, I'm better than others. A baby lacks these kind of concepts. You learn that later, right? So that is what fabrication is. That is a truth. It happens in your mind right now, probably. You're fabricating yourself. You're creating yourself. And the fifth final point of something that really exists is consciousness. The knowing quality. That which is aware of sound, smell, taste, feeling. That which is aware of thought. That exists too. It's undeniable, because without consciousness, you wouldn't be conscious of what I'm saying right now. So these are 5 things that are true, that really exist. Another way of putting it, what is real? What exists? Well, first of all, the earth element exists, which is everything that is hard, obstructive. Then second one, the water element exists. It's everything that is binding. Third one is fire element exists. Fire element is what? Everything that is pertaining to temperature. Fourth one, the wind element. Everything pertaining to movement and energy. Lightness. Fifth element is space. Did you know that 99 point, and then you add 12 times the number 9 behind the point, % of an atom is empty space? It's 99.99999% of matter is empty. That's quite a lot of emptiness. So there's a lot of space. And the sixth one is the element of consciousness, the knowing quality. Now we narrowed it down to 6 things that are real, that really do exist. Namely, matter and mind, matter and consciousness. So there's various ways of narrowing it down to what is it that really exists. But I don't think we need to make it really complicated and give you all these kind of lists and stuff. I think it can be a bit more simple. Train yourself like this. You sit down or you stand or you walk. And in terms of the body, just notice that you feel various things in the body. So there is feeling. Then learn to not make anything more out of this, but learn to see it as what it actually is, just energy in motion, feeling, sensation. That's that. Then train yourself with sound. Take a week where you just focus on sound. Learning to see sound is just sound. And this is nothing to go around and tell other people, you know. And they say, oh honey, good morning. And you're just like, it's just sound. I love you, just sound. This is nothing that you need to show to other people, but it's something that you know on the inside. Ah, sound. Interesting. The rest is what the mind makes out of it. And this is something to reflect on. Something to think a little bit about, maybe. Think in a wise and a skillful way about it. How many times do we make something out of thin air in our own head and believe that to be true, that to be real? That guy is an idiot. That is made up. It's not real. but we really believe it. I'm a failure. I'm worse than everyone in this room here. Is that true? Or is it just a thought that you're really invested in? So we learn to take a step back and see it for what it is. It's very healing. See, I'm thinking. There's thinking going on right now. Okay, it's just thinking. You can talk yourself into that. Helping yourself, teaching yourself in that way. Gently pointing out the truth. You're thinking right now. This is thinking. Thinking is like this. There's one very powerful sentence that I find deeply inspiring. It's this sentence. It is like this. It's very simple. And it's based on a story that I've heard. There's these two great monks in Thailand, Ajahn Sumedho and Ajahn Buddhadasa Bhikkhu, and they both met. Buddhadasa Bhikkhu was much older than Ajahn Sumedho at this time, and Sumedho much younger. And the younger monk comes to this old monk and asks him this question. Now, if you were stranded on a desert island all by yourself, and you couldn't choose to take one item with you, what would you take with you? And this old monk says, well, a piece of paper on which it is written, it is just like this. It just points to truth. It points to the way it is. No should. No could. No suffering. Just seeing what is as it is. You're on the desert island, you're likely to going to die there. Maybe not. We don't know. So why freak out about something we don't know? Instead, be here and know. And that knowing is right now. So it is like this. It's like this. Thinking is like this. You sit there on the park bench and you look at your mind as it thinks. Okay, thinking is like this. It's interesting. Have a look at it. Have a look at your mind go. What does it talk about? Well, what's the content of your mind? What is it mostly about? You'll find it's pretty repetitive. It's like a broken record for most people. Same kind of thoughts every day. Same kind of thoughts. You meet them a year later, still say the same kind of things. Because their mind hasn't changed. Hasn't grown up. Still the same topics. Look at it. Just looking at it is really enough to become dispassionate about it. And being dispassionate about it, you drop it. You drop it, you're at peace. That's letting go. Now, if you have an emotion, for example, a strong emotion, fear or worry or something like that, well, then again, being scared is like this. Or worrying is like this. See, I'm not telling you that you need to do anything to the worries. Worrying is bad. No. Don't you dare to worry. You shouldn't worry. It will make things worse, actually. But instead, see it. Learn from it. Conceit, having conceit. I'm better than others. I'm worse than others. Look at it. Conceit is like this. It's like this. Watch it go. Learn from it. Maybe next to saying it is like this, ask yourself the question, is it easeful or is it stressful? When I'm attaching to that, is it easeful or is it stressful? If I'm identified with that, is it easeful or stressful? Let's say there is some worrying coming up in your mind. Are you the one making it? Let's say, for example, you just sit there and all of a sudden you have that thought come up in your mind that makes you worried. Is that because you chose to worry? Of course not. Nobody chooses to worry. It's a very unpleasant state. So what does that point to? It shows you that you're not making it, you're not doing it. It just arises by itself. So since you're not the owner of it, you're not making it, you're not the builder of it, let it be. Don't mess around with it. And as soon as you let it be, it fades. But if you're invested in it, if you want to get rid of it, it will not fade. If you're fighting with it, it will not fade. It will stay in the ring with you and fight back. That's why states don't go. Anger, worry, fear, depression. Why doesn't it go? Because you're busy fighting with it. So you don't allow it to leave. Because you're invested in it. You think it's important. That's why it stays. Everything that we pay attention to stays. It lingers, it hangs around. So you're not letting it go. You're holding, you want to look at it more. It's kind of an addiction to these states. So letting them go here means to really just understand what this is. What is it that is going on right now in my mind? It's just this. And if I touch that, if I slip into it, I hurt. Now I see. And if I watch it, I don't hurt. This is a learning process, and it takes time to learn that. It takes some devotion to truth. If you are in for truth, if you want to understand yourself as you are, it's very important to be devoted to truth in all aspects, to be honest. As my teacher very often says, honesty is the path. To look at yourself in all honesty. It's not about building some spiritual fancy pants image of yourself. Oh, I'm so spiritual, so enlightened. I have all these visions at night. When I sit in deep meditation, I have all these visions. I'm building a huge self around that, a huge ego around this spirituality. That's not what this is about. It's about truth. Seeing, I'm building a huge ego around ideas and perceptions. And then you see, wow, this is actually stressful. So you drop it. That's much better. You only suffer the weight of something as long as you carry it around. If you put it down, you don't suffer its weight. Ever. Putting it down doesn't mean getting rid of it. It means losing your interest in either getting rid of it or following it. It's just this. It is just the way it is. So relax. Now some people, they say that, but how can you relax when the world is like the way it is? There's war, there's poverty, people starve, the beaches are not nice because they're full of trash. What if everyone would just sit around at the beach and say, well, let it be the way it is. It's just like this. We would all drown in trash. Right? So we've got to do something. You've got to be angry at the world. You've got to fight. You've got to change. Some people argue like that. They say this. If you just hang around and say, this is the way it is, you lose all your drive. Your life will go down the drain. Nothing will change. Nothing will get better if everyone would just hang around like that. Well, first thing, that's a utopia. Trust me, most people have no interest in genuine peace. They have interest in trying to get some other place, trying to change themselves, trying to change the world, so that will not change. Most people are busy looking outside. Only very, very few are actually interested in looking within. That's a very rare thing. It's easier to build a spaceship than to know yourself. Because when you start to look at yourself, you'll have to put up with a whole lot of BS right there. And most people don't really want to do that. They sit down, they become quiet, and they see, oh my God, that mind is just out of control. It does whatever it wants. That's too uncomfortable. Let's distract. So they go into a whole lot of distractions. We prefer that. We prefer short-term fix over long-term release, long-term peace. So if you're really interested in truth, there has to be devotion to it. And if there's devotion to the truth, it comes with freedom. Isn't that, there's this saying, isn't it? And the truth shall set you free. Which is indeed true. Realizing the truth of the way it is an amazing freedom. There's nothing that can compare to that. So this is the reason why we actually are on this path, to let go of suffering and stress. Because, to be honest, the world would need more people that suffer less. Instead of demanding the world to stop suffering, save the world, well, we should save the world from our own suffering. And if we would all make that a priority, sure, the world would be a better place. We say, let's save the world from my own anger. Let's save the world from my own conceit. Let's save the world from my own greed. Let's start there. We don't even have to go very far. Drop your own anger, drop your own impatience, drop your own perceptions of other people, your judgments of other people. Drop it. The world will be a better place for it. Guaranteed. Drop all these things that are hurtful, harmful, that arise out of pain. And instead, cultivate kindness, compassion, equanimity, warmth towards yourself, understanding towards yourself, so you don't have to judge others. You know, we're all kind of in the same boat here, all trying not to suffer. Nobody wants to suffer and experience pain, just like yourself. Everybody wants to be happy and at ease. We all try, and we're all super confused. It's important to realize that. So when you realize that, that's the first step. It's a birth of purpose. And then truth will come and find you, because you're open to it. So that's all that comes to mind for this talk today. Are there any questions?